Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's been a while. I hope you're having a lot of fun playing the Demonic Pacts League. I know I have been. Now, in case you're somebody who quit early on and you're like, hey, I'm struggling a lot with the packs or the content, or some of the league has just been, kind of difficult to overcome, well, I think Jagex has cooked up an absolute awesome update. And even if you have been having a lot of fun, I think this update is just going to take your league experience to the next level. So let's get into the agenda. So, first of all, Jagex has made some really awesome updates to the demonic packs. I'm going to talk about those. Next up, the Echo Boss balancing changes. I think between the Echo Boss balancing changes and the demonic packs, it's almost like a fresh league. There's just so much good balancing done around it. I'm really applauding Jagex for all the great changes that they've kind of incorporated. There are also some great area and task and relic changes. Now, this is really dependent on what areas you've unlocked and what tasks and what relics you're going to go after, right? And so we'll cover those really quickly, but I think those you just have to read in detail for your specific changes. Slayer adjustments. There's only a really short blurb kind of talking about the changes, but I think this is probably one of the most impactful ones. If you're like me and you're kind of fed up with getting cows and bears in your task list, well, I think this change is going to be awesome for you. And lastly, I'm just going to talk about a few quick changes around the additional changes and activity worlds that Jagex has shared. So the demonic packs, okay, so now everyone, if you were in game when Jagex released it, they gave everyone, I think on Monday, a free reset for all of your demonic packs. I think this is just great. So I think even if you're new and you're just getting to log in for the first time into leagues and you're going to try it out, you should log in with one free reset. This kind of helps everyone who made a mistake or didn't really understand the nodes, or more importantly, didn't understand the power of certain nodes versus weaker ones early on. And so I think this is going to help a lot. In addition to that, Huey Coddle is a really easy boss, and Jagex is adding one more reset there as well. I think this is fantastic. I do agree with Jagex on limiting the amount of resets you could do, just because, Jagex doesn't want us to make our choices feel impactful, and you want to make sure you're, having a good purpose of picking that instead of just playing around and then just everyone copying the same exact build that everyone else is doing. However, now getting these two plus the three we had, that's a total of 5 resets. So that's a total of 6 different trees you can try out during the league. This is going to be really helpful to get you a really early game tree, mid game tree, late game tree, and then try out 2 or 3 other late game trees once you have the gear as well. Right. In addition to that, Jagex has added 4 more Pact points. Now, we still are going to be limited to a total of 40 points on the tree allocated at any time. But if you've already completed any of these tasks, you will automatically get those points. And the same thing applies to the reset from the Huey Coddle kill. Right, so in equipping an obsidian cape is a very early on task. If you get the money, you can buy the tuckle and you can go get it. It's pretty straightforward. This is pretty much money dependent, locked early on, so this is kind of a free point for everyone. In addition to that, equipping any piece of armor from the Moons of Peril. Now, if you're picking early nodes in the range or magic areas and you're struggling with Moons of Peril, just put on some good melee gear. Moons of Peril are just a pretty easy early game boss anyways for regular content, and so even without any nodes, you should be able to kind of get one completion, and hopefully you get pretty lucky with the boosted drop rates and you get that piece. So I think this is also a pretty early point, which is going to be great. And then equipping your first Echo weapon. Now, hopefully in one of your 3 regions that you're picking, one of the regions has a relatively easy Echo boss. For me, mine was Echo Hispori. I did that pretty early on. I got the bow, and that was great, and that was really nice kind of additional pack point there. And then lastly, we have Complete One Deep Delve. This is going to be a little bit later in the game and might be a new boss for many of you, but I do like that this is a lot easier than some of the really, really difficult tasks, like the Radiant Oath Plate, for example. And so I think this is going to kind of round out and fix everyone's one last missing point. Overall, I think these are some fantastic changes by Jagex. I think the most important thing that we've seen in previous leagues is everyone was able to max out at least one combat style. Maybe they weren't able to get all 10 points, but they were able to get at least the 6 for the tree we had in the past. And so what this is doing now is kind of getting people a couple more of those points to allow them to maybe not get the complete tree, but at least get pretty close to near maxing. And I think that's going to help a lot of builds and for those of you struggling early on. right? Moving on to the buffed pack nodes, this is also extremely impactful for any of you who are like me and went Toronto in and you wanted to get that prayer penetration. The prayer penetration was kind of scattered in 3 different directions. In order to get all of it, you would have to just burn a lot of kind of like travel points to get to those prayer penetration nodes. They've buffed that now from 15 to 25%. So just by going on 2 sides, you'll easily be able to get 100%, no problem if you wanted to. This is absolutely fantastic. Prayer penetration is extremely powerful against a lot of bosses, especially Echo Hunlif. Okay, so just keep that in mind if you are going Tronwyn. In addition to that, the boost accuracy for small nodes has been increased to 25% from 15% and 50% from 35% on the big nodes. This is also absolutely massive. Now, most important thing I want to call for accuracy, this depends on your base number, okay? So if your base number is 10, getting a 50% boost is only going to bring you up to 15. But if your base number is 100, that's going to bring you to 150, right? And so making sure you do have some base accuracy, then this multiplier is just going to be that much more powerful for you. Everyone is traveling to at least, I would say, 2, 3, maybe even 4 accuracy nodes. And so this is going to be really, really beneficial to make us all extremely accurate. Overall, really, really powerful. Really, really appreciate this. In addition to making some pack points also easier to get and making these smaller nodes and the accuracy early nodes more powerful, now you have to get less of them. And so it feels like you don't need to hit, 36 or 40 points. That like 30 might be enough, even if you only got 1 or 2 accuracy nodes because they've been buffed. This is absolutely massive, really, really powerful. I've kind of really seen the massive impact to the damage overall in content in one day already. In addition to that, there's also a small damage buff node for the magic and rain nodes. They also give an additional 10% global accuracy. I think this is really nice. It's not 10% is not going to be game breaking, but the 1% damage just seemed overall pretty weak by itself. And so I think this is going to help a lot, right? And this is universal, so whether you're going on the melee side, the magic side, or the range side, you're going to be getting that 10% accuracy all the way through. And this also means you may have to get less points to travel to some of those accuracy nodes because now you're getting the 10% in between those nodes as well, right? So overall, the entire tree is just seen a massive, massive buff, and you really don't need to hit all 40 points and max out every single accuracy node. You're just going to get a lot more benefits for the small nodes on. This is absolutely game changing for a lot of you, including myself, who don't have all 40 points. I'm really, really excited. I've been really, really happy with this buff overall. All right, moving on to the Echo Boss balancing changes. Now, again, alluding to the fact that, if you're going certain regions, certain bosses just have certain defenses. And so if you're attacking them in the wrong style, I gave you the example of Moons of Peril. If you were going to, prioritize melee or range, that just became kind of difficult. Unfortunately, the Moons of Peril are still going to be the same melee kind of content, but they did fix the Echo bosses. Now, I think this is actually really beneficial and impactful because Echo bosses, like, you want to choose your build not because of the, of the region and the items and the gear you get, right? But not necessarily these bosses are weak against the certain types of combat styles you're going to do, right? For example, if you're going to go to Thermi, and you want to do a range setup, but you wanted to pick Kandarin for whatever reason, you were going to struggle because your accuracy was just going to fall short at the 900 range defense that it had, right? By reducing that down from 900 to 90, this has made it a lot more viable. So like for me, for example, the Echo Hespori was my first kill, and therefore I got the Hespori bow. I farmed Echo Hespori for a while, got the bow, and then I eventually unlocked Kandarin last, right? And so the bow for me was kind of my primary weapon of choice. Going into Thermi, I just couldn't use it. It was pretty much doing negligible damage or accuracy, and so it was kind of ineffective. I just had to use magic and then try to get the penetration or get a melee hit in there in between or something. It just was a really, really clunky fight. This is actually game changing. Now, prayer penetration, like I said, has been buffed, and so I just shredded thermonuclear with prayer penetration instead. But overall, I think this is a really solid buff. Same thing applies for Echo Mox, Dagonoth Kings, Calphi Queen, Cerberus, and Gauntlet. It's a slightly different one. But any of these buffs that are beneficial, just pause the video right here, take a look, read them. I'll also leave a link to the blog post in the description below. Take a look at that and read that. Pretty much any off style that you were going to do for any of these bosses has been buffed, so it should just be a lot easier for your Echo boss. Now, Gauntlet, CG, and Echo EG, I guess, right? This has seen probably the most impactful buff. If you were like me and you were doing this earlier on, it was really, really painful. The prayer penetration nodes weren't as strong, and I didn't have a lot of those early on. In addition to that, the bows and the powered staves were not, getting the regenerate and the triggering effects. So I wasn't able to heal from the powered staff. The bow wasn't firing ranged echoes either, and that was just painful and much more difficult to actually fight Echo CG. You were pretty much fighting Echo CG in the traditional way of regular mechanics without any sort of combat masteries. And so that's made it extremely difficult to actually kind of complete that content. I did get a few kills, but it was very difficult. Now with these buffs, it's absolutely bonkers. I think my fastest kill was like 1 minute and 20 seconds to shred through CG. I also unlocked the minion, which was helpful since when I first tried it. But this is really, really powerful. Your bows, if you're a bow build, is going to, proc your range echoes. It's going to do a ton of damage. If you're a mage build and you're doing the one-tick powered staves, you're going to shred through, Hunlef, no problem. So overall, really, really impactful. Whether you're doing regular G or CG, this will apply also to those things. I'm kind of curious if anyone takes like a level 1 staff and just rushes into Gauntlet or Corrupt the Gauntlet and see if you can shred the boss with that. I think it's totally going to be possible as a really fast regular G or CG kill for sure. All right. Moving on to the area, task, and relic changes. Now, I'm not going to read all these in detail. There's just a lot here to, it would make my video almost twice as long. The main things I want to call out here is when you log into the game, just open your relic and tasks menu. Most of you, depending on the regions, you will get at least a few points or a few other unlocks or a few other components completed for you. That'll be really helpful. This is triggered by opening your relic or task menu in the game, so just do that first thing when you get in. All of these regions, they're primarily trying to fix a lot of bugs. Like one of the main ones I want to call out was if you got Mauritania, but you didn't have Taranwin, where you could buy an ecto file, you couldn't complete certain things, and you couldn't get the Ghost Speak amulet because we don't have Mistalin. And so there's this huge kind of locked kind of wall for Mauritania pickers. And so now that will be fixed for you. So that's really, really impactful. In addition to that, there's a couple of tasks that were bugged out and having issues. And so Jagex has changed some of those, and I get to auto-complete them. Most notably, I think the Redwood Totems one was difficult for most people to actually complete, and now that one will just be auto-completed when you complete the magic one. So yay, free 200 points for all of us. That's kind of really fantastic. For me, it wasn't a problem because I went transmutation. I also have access to Redwood logs and Zaya, but for those of you who couldn't complete that task, that's a kind of free 200 points for you. I'm pretty sure it's 200. Anyways, in addition to that, relic changes. Now, if you're a hotfoot picker, rejoice, especially if you went Kandarin, because now you get to do twice as few, laps of Apatol, because your laps will count as twice as much. I think this is an absolute fantastic buff. This is kind of my biggest concern around hotfoot, which is it was going to buff all the rooftop courses, but not the non-rooftop courses. And this is kind of problematic because Apatol has a lot of laps, and this is kind of a reason why I didn't go it, because if I picked Kandarin, which I did, I wasn't going to get the benefits. But now that's been fixed. If you're just starting your league grind, hotfoot just got a little bit juicier with these, especially if you're picking Kandarin. There's a lot of points and tasks behind some of these courses in Kandarin because you have RD, you have Seers, and you have the Apatol. You just have a lot of agility in there. So overall, really good benefits. Definitely check out and read the rest of these updates. Some of these are going to be relevant to you and some of these aren't. I would just say Control F on the page, look for the ones that are relevant to your tasks or your regions, and then you can just kind of skip over the rest. All right, Slayer adjustments. Now, this one is absolutely massive. If you're like me and you did pick the Slayer relic, you were still seeing cows and bears and birds in your tasks. And this was absolutely painful. I was burning through so many skips. Even though you get so many points in the league, I'm pretty much teetering around less than 100 points all the time, just because I'm always canceling as many tasks as possible, pretty much up until the point where I'm worried I'm going to run out of points and get stuck with a shitty task. And so I pretty much just pick whatever is menial and kind of grab it, and then again keep burning it. So now Slayer task will assign the tasks that match their lists. For those of you who don't know, Jagex went through a huge overhaul of how Slayer Masters work, how they have independent block lists now, so you're going to be able to leverage that. We all have access to Cheldar and Duradel, right? And so you're going to be able to customize the block lists based off of the tasks that they provide as well. And so you can potentially kind of target your task lists or your task requirements from them, which is really, really nice. This is actually a massive buff. Whether you're going culling spree or not, it's going to be absolutely fantastic overall. And I think this will honestly fix the game a lot for you. So much to the point that I actually want to get into a little bit of a deep dive into it. So Duradel, right? Everyone has access to Duradel. We all get Kramja after a couple of points of unlocks. Once you get here and you talk to him, he'll give you a bunch of tasks. Now, before it was just the random standard leagues general list. Now it's going to be the specific list that belongs to him. Okay. Now, just be warned, if you're going to him early on, you're going to get maybe a difficult task, and so it's going to be difficult for you. So I would say probably stick to Cheldar until you have higher combats and maybe a few more of those pack points, so you have a pretty juiced combat style so you can actually complete some of the tasks. Now, he won't assign you anything that you don't have the levels to do and don't have the regions to do. So, for example, if you go over here to the wiki, going here onto the Duradel wiki, just scroll down here to the task list. What I like to do is I like to sort by weight. So I have the highest weight at top, right? And then I figure out, do I want to do this task or not? Metal Dragons. Ooh, I still need the Draconic Visage. I still need the Dragon Full Helm. Okay, I'll keep the Metal Dragons unlocked. Abyssal Demons. I still need to do Sire. I'll keep that unlocked, right? Ooh, Dark Beasts. I got my Dark Bow from them. I think I'm all set. I probably want to block Dark Beasts because they have an 11-point weight and put it here, right? In addition to that, don't forget, like, for example, I don't have Mauritania, so I don't have to worry about blocking Araxites in case I didn't want to do them. Araxites are great if you want any of the superiors and the superior drop items, but nonetheless, I don't have Mauritania, so I don't have to worry about blocking Araxites. It's like, for those of you who don't have Tehranwyn, you don't have to worry about blocking Dark Beasts. Going over here to Dark Beasts, you'll see that they only exist in Tehranwyn, so you don't have to worry about that getting assigned as a task. I believe there was a bug for those of you who have Kurend and Konar assigning tasks in regions you didn't have access to. Now that bug has been patched, and so that no longer should be an issue. But overall, I think this is a fantastic buff for any of you who are kind of stuck on some painful task. If you can just muster the strength to power through it, now your list will be a lot more kind of customizable and focused, especially to the higher level content based off of your regions. So all in all, I think the Slayer changes are absolutely massive. Definitely there's some great YouTube videos out there that kind of explain the best way to kind of optimize your Slayer task lists. So I would encourage you to go check those out. Now, most importantly, remember, they can't assign you any tasks that you don't have region access to. So if you don't have Lizardman and you don't have Zaya and you haven't unlocked that reward, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so just keep that in mind when choosing your block lists. It's absolutely going to be a fantastic way to kind of play the game and really buff out Slayer. Last up, we have some additional changes and activity worlds. Number one thing, when League starts, they never assign activity worlds to them. They just let people go into a free-for-all. As players kind of finish their dragon rank grinds and complete tasks, are kind of done with the league after a week, if they just had only a week to play it, whatever the reasons, players start to consolidate, and so it kind of becomes difficult to find content with players. And so Jagex assigns these worlds after about a week, and this is great. So now you can just go to a world for Huey Cuddle, get that kill, get that extra task point. It's going to be great for your demonic packs and overall power boost. And so now the worlds to find. In addition to that, Diaz's Quizzer, got the regenerate added. Soul shards can now be correctly used to do Sunfire runes. If you're like me and you went Soul Harvest, this has been fixed. And funny enough, Twisted Banshees were a great Slayer task because they never attacked you back. So you could just go there without any sort of Slayer gear and just kind of punch on them. And they spawned a Superior, and the Superior didn't retaliate. So this is kind of a funny little kind of task that I saw. Now it's no longer the issue, so don't forget to bring your Slayer gear and enjoy grinding your Banshees. Hey, it's been a while. I know I haven't published a video in a while. Work and everything has been busy. If you stayed in tune for this long, I really appreciate your support. Definitely smash the like button if this video was helpful. Definitely smash the subscribe button. The more engagement I get, the more encouraged I am to help and produce more content like this. If you have any feedback or ideas, definitely leave a comment in the video below. Thank you.